When hunger meets generosity, one small act can change everything, but no one expected it to cost him everything he had. When hunger meets generosity, one small act can change everything, but no one expected it to cost him everything he had. It all started with a simple, yet profound act of kindness. She had nothing left, her last meal was barely enough to fill her stomach, yet she chose to share it. In a world that often teaches us to hold on tightly to what little we have, this decision was remarkable. It wasn't just an offering of food, it was a gesture that spoke volumes about courage, empathy, and the human spirit. There she was, standing on the edge of despair, yet giving selflessly. On the other side of the city, he lived in a world of unimaginable abundance. Wealth surrounded him in every form, luxury cars, sprawling estates, priceless art, but despite all this, he often felt the emptiness that money could never fill. He had witnessed countless transactions of power, deals, and exchanges, yet none had touched him personally, none had stirred a real human connection. That is, until he saw her act. The simplicity of her gesture was its power. She did not give because she expected something in return, she gave because it was the right thing to do. In that moment, he saw a truth that many never notice, the value of pure, uncalculated generosity. Her courage forced him to reflect, wealth is not measured by the money you accumulate, but by the lives you touch. And here was someone, a stranger in a struggling world, teaching him a lesson money could never buy. Compelled by this act, he made a choice that defied expectation. He shared his fortune, not just a token amount, but everything he could, everything that had taken years to build. This wasn't charity in the conventional sense, it was a profound exchange of trust, gratitude, and humanity. His life, once governed by financial metrics and calculated risks, suddenly had meaning beyond numbers. And for her, the impact was just as powerful. The last meal she had shared became the catalyst that transformed her life entirely. What is remarkable about this story is how it reminds us that generosity is contagious, and courage can inspire change in unexpected ways. A small act, even in moments of despair, has the power to ripple across lives. And sometimes, the universe rewards the brave in ways we could never anticipate. In essence, this story isn't about wealth or hunger, it's about connection, empathy, and the extraordinary potential within everyday choices. One shared meal led to a life-changing fortune, proving that acts of selflessness can create a chain reaction with effects far beyond imagination. It's a powerful reminder, the smallest gestures can ignite the greatest transformations. Sometimes, the smallest gesture can ignite the greatest change. She had nothing left, not a coin to her name, not even a morsel for herself, but in that moment, she chose to share her last meal. Think about that for a moment. A person on the brink of desperation, facing hunger and uncertainty, deciding to give rather than cling to what little they have. That decision reveals a courage that is often invisible in everyday life, yet it carries immense power. It wasn't about the food itself, it was about the intention behind it. The act of giving, even when one has nothing, speaks louder than words. It communicates trust, hope, and a willingness to connect with others, even strangers. In sharing her last meal, she demonstrated an extraordinary faith in humanity, the belief that goodness can exist in the world, even when life seems cruel. This small act, unnoticed by most, set in motion a chain of events that would alter two lives forever. On the other side of the spectrum, he had wealth beyond imagination. Money, luxury, and material abundance surrounded him at every turn. Yet, in all his prosperity, he lacked a genuine sense of purpose. Life had become a routine of accumulation without fulfillment, a daily cycle of wealth without meaning. Until he encountered her. Her simple act of sharing caught him off guard. In her selflessness, he saw a reflection of a value he had long forgotten, the transformative power of generosity. What makes this encounter remarkable is the unexpected reversal of roles. She, with almost nothing, sparked a generosity in him that would surpass everything he had ever known. Inspired by her courage, he chose to share not just a portion, but his entire fortune. This wasn't about charity or obligation, it was about recognition, respect, and the realization that true wealth lies not in possessions but in the ability to impact lives profoundly. His decision reshaped his world and hers in ways that neither could have predicted. This story teaches a fundamental lesson: generosity and courage are not defined by what one has, but by what one is willing to give. It challenges us to rethink how we measure success, urging us to consider the impact of our actions over our material accumulation. A single act, carried out with sincerity and compassion, can ripple across lives, inspiring change and redefining what is truly valuable. Ultimately, Keynote 2 is a reminder that even in moments of scarcity, one can create abundance through kindness, and that abundance is measured not in wealth alone, but in the depth of human connection it fosters. One shared meal, one act of bravery, and one willing heart can spark a chain reaction with consequences far greater than anyone could imagine. It is a testament to the extraordinary potential of ordinary people when they choose to act selflessly. True generosity doesn't measure the value of what is given, it measures the courage behind the giving. In this story, she had nothing, literally her last meal, the only sustenance between her and starvation. Yet, despite her own hunger and uncertainty, she chose to share. This simple act of kindness, carried out in a moment of vulnerability, demonstrates a powerful truth: giving is not about how much you have, but how much heart you put into it. Even the smallest gesture can resonate far beyond its immediate context. She could have kept her meal. She could have walked away, protecting what little she had. But instead, she acted from a place of empathy and trust. That choice, though seemingly ordinary, created a ripple effect that would reach someone entirely unexpected. Generosity has a way of amplifying itself. A single spark can ignite a flame that spreads across lives. And in this case, her courage touched someone who had the resources to create a transformation that would surpass imagination. He was a man of immense wealth, surrounded by luxury that most could only dream of. To the outside world, he had it all. Yet, despite his material abundance, there was a gap in his life, a lack of true human connection and purpose. He had grown accustomed to measuring life in numbers, in possessions, and in transactions. Then, he witnessed her act of selflessness. It was so pure, so unexpected, that it pierced through the armor of his calculated existence. For the first time, he realized that the wealth he had accumulated meant nothing without meaning, nothing without the ability to touch lives in a genuine, heartfelt way. The impact of her decision was monumental. Inspired by her bravery, he made a choice that many would consider unthinkable: he shared his entire fortune. This was not a superficial or performative gesture, it was a true expression of human empathy and connection. His act demonstrated that wealth is most powerful when it is shared, that abundance becomes meaningful only when it changes lives. Her single act of giving had unlocked a generosity in him that no amount of money, status, or influence could have prompted. Keynote 3 reminds us that acts of generosity, no matter how small, can have consequences far beyond what we expect. It challenges our understanding of value, success, and purpose. True wealth is not measured by accumulation, but by the positive impact one has on others. A single act of selflessness can set off a chain reaction, inspiring people to give, to care, and to act courageously in their own lives. Ultimately, this story is about the extraordinary power of human connection. It proves that compassion is contagious, that courage can spark generosity, and that even in moments of scarcity, one can create abundance. One shared meal led to a life-changing fortune, illustrating a timeless lesson: generosity has the power to transform not just individual lives, but the world around us. Some moments in life are so small, yet so powerful, that they have the ability to change everything. She had nothing, her last meal, the only food she possessed, and yet she chose to share it. In a world that often teaches self-preservation and caution, this simple act of generosity stands out as a beacon of courage and hope. It wasn't just food she offered, it was a part of herself, a gesture that spoke louder than words ever could. This is the essence of true generosity: giving without expectation, offering what you can even when it costs you dearly. Her choice illustrates a profound truth about humanity: courage and empathy often come hand in hand. To give when you have nothing is an act of bravery. It is a declaration of faith in others and in the goodness of the world. In sharing her last meal, she not only extended sustenance but also hope, a hope that sometimes, even in despair, the world can respond with kindness. That hope reached the eyes of a man who had more wealth than he knew how to use, and it ignited something within him that money alone never could. He was a man surrounded by luxury, living in a world defined by opulence and material success. Yet, despite all his possessions, he felt a void that no fortune could fill. He had everything, and yet, in witnessing her act, he discovered that life's true richness comes from human connection and the ability to impact someone else's life in a meaningful way. Her courage acted as a mirror, reflecting a deeper truth to him: the value of life is not measured in dollars, houses, or possessions, but in the depth of kindness and the willingness to give selflessly. Inspired by her act, he did something extraordinary. He shared his fortune, not a fraction, but everything he had. This was more than a financial gesture, it was a testament to the transformative power of generosity. By giving fully, he demonstrated that wealth is only meaningful when it is shared. Her single act of selflessness had unlocked a profound generosity within him, proving that even the smallest sparks can ignite the largest flames. It shows how courage and giving can create a chain reaction, inspiring actions that go far beyond what anyone could imagine. Keynote 4 emphasizes that acts of generosity are rarely measured by size alone, the intention behind them carries far greater weight. Her willingness to share, even in her scarcity, created a ripple effect that transformed both their lives. It challenges us to consider our own actions, how we use our resources, how we connect with others, and how small acts of courage can lead to monumental change. Ultimately, this story is about more than meals or money, it is about the extraordinary potential of human kindness. One act of giving can open doors to unimaginable possibilities, proving that compassion is powerful, courageous, and contagious. Her last meal became a turning point, reminding us that even in the darkest moments, generosity has the power to change everything. Generosity is most powerful when it is unexpected, and courage is most remarkable when it comes from those with the least to give. She had almost nothing, her last meal barely enough to sustain her, but in that moment, she chose to share. It wasn't about the food itself, it was about the decision to put someone else before herself, to act selflessly even when the world seemed unforgiving. That small gesture carried a message far greater than hunger, it spoke of empathy, hope, and the belief that kindness has the power to transform lives. This act of sharing was not just an exchange of sustenance, it was an act of trust. She could have guarded her last morsel, yet she chose to extend it to another. In doing so, she demonstrated a profound human truth: even in scarcity, the heart can be abundant. Courage often shows up in simple, silent ways, in actions that go unnoticed by most. But sometimes, those actions create ripples that reach far beyond imagination. Her decision, quiet yet courageous, was a spark that would soon ignite a transformation neither of them could have predicted. He, on the other hand, had lived in a world of abundance for years. Wealth surrounded him in every form imaginable: luxury, influence, and material possessions, but it had never brought him true fulfillment. Life had become predictable, measured in numbers and transactions, lacking deeper meaning. Then he witnessed her act, and something inside him shifted. The courage and generosity of someone who had nothing resonated more powerfully than any business deal or financial success ever could. It reminded him of a truth often forgotten: the greatest value in life lies not in what we accumulate, but in what we give. Inspired by her gesture, he made a decision that defied conventional thinking. He shared his entire fortune, not because he was asked, but because he was moved. This was not a superficial act, it was an embodiment of human empathy and understanding. The wealth he had spent years building suddenly gained purpose and meaning, becoming a tool to create lasting impact. Her single act of giving had unlocked a generosity in him that had lain dormant, demonstrating that acts of kindness, no matter how small, can inspire monumental change. Keynote 5 teaches a timeless lesson: courage and generosity are contagious. Even in moments of desperation, one act of selflessness can set off a chain reaction with effects far beyond imagination. It challenges us to rethink how we define strength, success, and influence. True power lies not in what we own, but in the ability to touch the lives of others in meaningful ways. Ultimately, this story is about the transformative potential of human connection. One shared meal, given in vulnerability, led to a fortune being shared in return. It proves that courage and generosity are forces capable of reshaping destinies, reminding us that even the smallest actions can have extraordinary consequences. The power of giving, when combined with the courage to act, has the ability to change everything. Some stories stay with us because they reveal the extraordinary in the ordinary, and this is one of those stories. She had nothing, her last meal was all she possessed, but she chose to give it away. In that quiet, selfless moment, she demonstrated a kind of courage that few recognize but everyone respects. Sharing when there is nothing left to give is not simply generosity, it is a declaration of faith in humanity. It says, "Even in my weakness, I can choose to do what is right." That single decision would set into motion a chain of events that neither she nor anyone else could have anticipated. The power of her act lies not in the meal itself, but in the intent behind it. It was a conscious choice to act with kindness, to reach out to another human being without expectation. And sometimes, it is precisely these acts, small, seemingly insignificant moments of courage, that have the capacity to change lives. She did not know it at the time, but her willingness to give from nothing would touch someone who had everything, and in doing so, it would transform both of their lives forever. He, a man of immense wealth, lived a life most could only dream of. Gold, luxury, and comfort surrounded him, yet his life felt incomplete, lacking the kind of fulfillment that comes from connection, empathy, and purpose. He had accumulated everything he could desire materially, but something essential was missing. When he witnessed her act of selflessness, it awakened a realization within him: true wealth is not measured by possessions, but by the lives we touch and the difference we make. Her courage revealed to him a form of richness that money alone could never provide. Moved by her generosity, he responded in kind, but with a magnitude far beyond what anyone could expect. He shared his entire fortune, a decision that went beyond charity or obligation, a gesture rooted in deep recognition of her bravery and the transformative power of her simple act. In sharing everything he had, he not only changed her life, but he also found a purpose and fulfillment that had eluded him for years. Her last meal had sparked a generosity in him that no calculation, contract, or plan ever could. It became a moment that defined both of their destinies. Keynote 6 reminds us that acts of courage and kindness are catalysts for extraordinary outcomes. They defy expectation and transcend circumstance. One selfless act can inspire others, create waves of change, and show us that even in the most desperate situations, hope and generosity can prevail. This story challenges us to see beyond scarcity, beyond fear, and to embrace the potential within our own actions to create profound impact. Ultimately, this is a story about human connection, courage, and the power of giving. One shared meal, offered in humility and bravery, led to an act of generosity that changed a life, and a fortune. It proves that true wealth lies not in what we possess, but in what we give, and that even the smallest gestures can spark monumental transformations. The lesson is timeless: generosity and courage, when combined, have the power to change everything. Some moments in life are so powerful that they ripple far beyond the immediate act, shaping destinies in ways we could never anticipate. She had nothing, her last meal, the only sustenance she possessed, but in that moment of scarcity, she chose to share. It is one thing to give when you have abundance, but it is something entirely different to give when you are at the edge of survival. Her act was not simply generosity, it was courage, empathy, and faith all intertwined. She chose connection over fear, kindness over desperation, and in doing so, she became the spark for an extraordinary transformation. The significance of her decision lies in its simplicity and authenticity. There was no calculation, no expectation of reward. She gave because it was the right thing to do. And sometimes, it is precisely these acts, small, selfless, and often unnoticed, that carry the greatest power. Her single gesture of sharing her last meal revealed a truth that resonates across cultures and generations. True courage and generosity often emerge in moments of personal sacrifice. By choosing to give even when it seemed impossible, she demonstrated the limitless capacity of the human heart. He, a man surrounded by wealth and comfort, lived a life that to outsiders appeared perfect. Luxury, influence, and success defined his world, yet internally, he felt an emptiness that no possession could fill. Material abundance, he realized, could not replace genuine human connection or purpose. Then, he witnessed her act, and it changed everything. The simplicity of her courage illuminated a deeper truth: life's value is not measured by what we accumulate, but by how we impact others. Her selflessness stirred something within him that no amount of wealth or power ever had, a desire to act from the heart, to make a real difference. Inspired by her generosity, he did something that defied expectation. He shared his entire fortune, not just a token amount, but everything he had worked for, because he recognized the transformative power of her act. It was more than a gesture of charity, it was a recognition of human potential, a commitment to change a life in ways that went far beyond money. Her act of courage had unlocked a generosity in him that had remained dormant, proving that even the smallest acts can ignite profound change in others. Keynote 7 underscores an essential lesson: the power of human kindness is boundless, and acts of selflessness, no matter how small, can ripple into unimaginable consequences. One shared meal led to a fortune being given, reminding us that true wealth is not about possessions, but about empathy, courage, and the ability to make a meaningful difference. It challenges us to see opportunities to act selflessly, even when it seems risky or inconvenient, and to recognize that our choices can inspire extraordinary outcomes. Ultimately, this story is a testament to the transformative nature of generosity. It shows that courage and kindness, even in the face of scarcity, have the power to change lives, spark hope, and create profound connections. One small act, given with sincerity and bravery, can lead to a ripple effect that touches lives, reshapes destinies, and demonstrates the extraordinary potential that exists in every human interaction.